Hello everyone. In this video, I want to build on the fracturing workflow that we did manually in a previous video. So I want to basically write a little Python script that can help select and run the merge mesh command. We're also going to look at how we can store our Python scripts on the Nucleus server so that everybody sort of has access to them, which is a great way to keep our scripts organized and accessible. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to just create a nice empty scene, and we will bring in a shattered vase that I had previously worked on. Um, and that was just using the same workflow covered in the previous video, just using the Blast extension. We'll come over here and we'll just organize our hierarchy a little bit, keep things nice and clean, and there we go. So now we can open our script editor, and you can just get that here. There we go. And let's start our code. So we know we're going to need to import Omni. We're also going to need to import omni.usd. And we're also going to need to import omni.usd.commands. So get started with those. And these are sort of the main modules that most of the Kit USD Composer methods are going to be involved in. So these will probably be in just about every script that you end up writing for Omniverse. That's a good place to start for sure. And I'm sure we're going to be adding a few more as we move through this scripting process. So what exactly do we want our script to do? Well, we want to automatically select the meshes that are in this hierarchy and run the merge mesh command on them. So that's included with Kit, and that's what the plugin or the extension was doing in the previous video. But now we're going to sidestep that extension and just call the function directly. So first we're going to need to make a function, and we're going to need to get all geometry in the scene, or all the mesh actors or elements in the Omniverse scene. So to do that, we need to iterate through pretty much everything that's in our stage. So how can we do that? Well, let's start with a def. This will be our function, and we'll call it find prims by type. And we're going to need to give that a stage, and we're going to need to give it a prim type that we want to find, in our case mesh, but we'll just start with generic prim type. So we need our stage, and we can use some type hinting here to let people know stage. And we'll also need our prim type. Okay. And we can type hint this as well. And what we need back from this is basically a list of USD prim. So we'll also need to include this. So from typing import list type. Okay, so we'll expand our inputs. And so in our function, what we want are found prims. And that's going to be equal to x for x in stage traverse. And this is the method we're going to use to iterate through everything in the USD stage. And there's a few subtypes of traverse we're just going to call stage traverse. But if you need to iterate through, everything or even a subset, a specific type of asset, that's a great function, and there's a few variations on it that are very useful. So for us, this will work. And if x is a prim type, and this will be what we're searching for. Okay, so this will be our found prims. And return found prims. Okay, so that's our function. And that's going to be, really the script is just going to run this function, but nothing too fancy here. But this is going to be 90% of what we need to do is find all the objects that we want to merge, and then we're just going to call the merge mesh command. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Well, we're going to need to find our USD stage. We're going to need to pass that into our function. So let's get that. We can get our context equal omni.usd.get context. Okay, so that'll be our context. And we'll also need our stage. So our stage variable is going to be USD stage equal USD context dot get stage. Okay, so now we'll have our context and our stage. Okay, so now we'll have our stage that we'll be able to pass into our function. So now that we have our stage, and we know we're going to be looking for a mesh in the stage, we can call our function and take the return and start building our list of the selected objects that we're going to pass into the merge mesh command. So we need we'll create a prims variable here, and this will be our list of prims that we return from our function, and that's going to be, and then we'll call the actual function. Find prims by type. We'll pass in our stage variable, and the type of asset that we're looking for is going to be a USD geom.mesh in this instance. Okay, so now we're going to end up with our list of USD prims as a variable that we can continue operating with. And we'll just take a second here to clean some of this up. Add a comment. Context. And then down here, Okay. So after all this, we have our prims as a great little list. But that isn't exactly what the merge mesh command is going to take in. We'll get to that in a second. But it's going to be looking for actually selected objects. So from these prims, what we need to do is we're going to need to get their paths, and then we're going to need to select those paths or add those paths to our selection. And that we're going to take a list of those strings, these path strings, and pass that into merge mesh command. So let's make something to hold this selection of paths. So call it selected prim paths. And that'll be equal to prim.getPath for prim in prims. Okay. Okay, so here in the prims list, which is this up here, this variable, for each of the prims contained in that list, we're going to call getPath on that, and then we're going to take that as a list, and we're going to populate selected prim paths. So this is now going to be a variable of list of paths. Okay, so now that we have our list of paths, the merge mesh command actually takes in strings, two paths, so we're going to need to convert these paths into strings. So that's very straightforward. I'll just call that paths as strings. And that'll be equal to, take our list, string, item, or item in selected. Paths. So we're just going to convert those paths, we're going to convert those into strings. And we're still going to end up with a list. And now that we have our paths, we can simply call select paths, which is a function in the omni.kit.commands.execute and module. And so we'll pass in these paths and it will return the selected objects. It will trigger an actual selection. Old selected path, which we're going to be dumping, but it still wants it here. So it doesn't really matter what that in. It could be, we'll just leave that as an empty list. Our new selected paths. And this is going to be equal to prims as strings. Okay. And we also are going to make it expand in stage equal true. Okay. So that's the method that we'll use to actually select these objects in the stage by passing in the paths to those specific objects. Okay, and that's pretty much it. This should run and this should work. The other thing I just like to do at the end here is I just like to print out the path names as a sort of a confirmation that everything worked as planned. So for X in selected prim paths, print X. Great. Okay, so at this point, this should run. So we have nothing selected, and hopefully what will happen is we'll create a new object down here, a merged mesh. So we can run, and we're getting an error already. Da, 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 da. List invalid syntax. Okay, so we're getting that error, and after some digging, this should not be a colon. It should be a dot. So now, in theory, when we execute this script, we should get a new merged mesh object. There we go. All right, so that has executed. We've selected all of our meshes in the level, and then down here, of course, there's the new merged mesh object. And this is what we can import into Unreal, and this will work quite nicely. So a little bit of a quicker, more automated workflow. Now what we can do is we can just save this script. And as opposed to having to go in here and filter and select all the different pieces of geo that we want to merge manually one by one, we can just run this script. It'll grab everything, it'll merge it for us, and that's just a little bit of a faster workflow. What we can also do with this script is we can save it on our Nucleus server, and it'll always be accessible to us if we're on a different machine or whether we're working remotely or wherever we need to we can pass it around amongst the team, and we can just quickly load it up and run it whenever we need it. So I've already gone ahead of I've created it here, but I'll just save over that. Okay. If we close this, now, if we were in a new scene, okay, so if we're in a new scene, we go File, Open, and then again right here, we've got our scripts folder. This is our selected fracture and merge. Enter, and then it's all loaded and ready to go. And then we can just, execute it. It won't work right now because there's nothing in the stage, but it is just a very easy place to store some scripts, and then how you can quickly automate something and make your life a little bit easier. If you have any questions or ideas about the script, let me know in the comments. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.